cool. Hey guys, welcome to Junior Coding week 8. So last week we were going through Python stuff, mainly print statements. This week we are going to do a bit more complicated stuff with Python involving variables and loops. I'm going to link the website that we were using last time, which is like raffleit.com. So you guys just use your logins from yesterday. I'll just link it in chat. Cool. So yeah, everyone just log in, use your account that you should have made last week, and we can get started. I'll just share my screen. So this is raffleit.com. So just click the login button at the top right. I'm already pretty much logged in. And well, and here on the homepage, once you log in, you should see all the Raffles that you've ever created. I'm going to need you guys to make a new one. So on the top right hand side over here is like a button that the plus sign. If you hover over it, it says new Raffle. I'll just highlight that down. So it's this plus sign on the top right here. Yep, so oops. So if I click on this plus sign, and like last week, create a Raffle, select Python under templates. So in this section, choose Python. And then title your project whatever you like. I'm gonna call this Junior Coding Week 8 class. So you guys remember how to hopefully now to create. So just like that plus sign on the top right, it'll say create a Raffle like this. Choose the Python template and then give it a title and then click create Raffle. Yep. So then you should have a new Raffle loaded and your main file is main.py. It should look like this. All right, if anyone's having any issues with creating a new Raffle, just let me know. I'll give you maybe half a minute to finish making a new one, and then we can get started. And as usual, just raise your hand via Zoom if you have any questions. Okay, no questions yet? All right, so first thing I was going to tell you guys about was variables. So variables in Python, as I mentioned last week, are like containers for storing data values. So you make a variable by using whatever the variable name is on the left side equals whatever the value, and then assign it to a value. The value can be like a number or a string or anything like that. Remember, the equal sign here means is the assignment operator. It means make this variable equal to this value. And yeah, as I mentioned, there are many kinds of data that you can make a variable equal to. I think Melissa just said in chat that she's using Scratch. Well, yeah, today's lesson is on Python, so you need to use raffleit.com and use Python instead of Scratch. Just like the last few lessons of junior coding are all using Python. So cool, I'll create a few variables to show you what different kinds of variables you can make. So you should be familiar with string. I call this my _str. So a string is like any data type, which is like in between like quotes or speech marks like this. So it could be like 2 words or a sentence. So I'll make my string equal to below there. Oh, and by the way, comments in Python start with a hash. So if you write a comment like this, like, then this line won't be executed as Python code. It's just like something you write to like sort of remind yourself of what's going on. So we have a string. We also have, you can have numbers, of course. So there are 2 different types of numbers. One number is called an integer. So an integer is like a whole number, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 or 15. There's also float numbers, like float numbers are like decimal numbers. So I think I mentioned in like the data type section, there are many types of data. There's like, strings are basically any alphanumeric characters inside single quotes, or they can also be inside double quotes. So either one. Integers are whole numbers. They can also be negative whole numbers, like -56 would also work. Floating point numbers or floats are decimal numbers. And you have Boolean values, which are true or false. So yeah, these are my 4 variables just to show you like what different kinds of variables there are. All right. And along with variables, there are also like a bunch of different operations you can do like with different bits of data. Like for example, 2 integers or numbers, you can add them together. 2 strings, you can add them together to make like a bigger string. Booleans, like true or false, you can do different things with that. Like for example, you can use like not true would be false, for example. Does anyone have any questions about what I've written so far? And also, as usual, like if you make a mistake or something, like the error message will show in the console. Like if you forget something like this double quote on the end over here, it'll give you like an error stack trace. And there's also usually like a red squiggly line to tell you that there's an error. So yeah, make sure you're very exact with your typing. And yeah, like with all error messages, it usually has this little arrow here to tell you where it thinks the error is, and then type of error and its description at the bottom. So that's in case you make any mistakes. And no questions so far? All right. Yeah, I'm just gonna demonstrate a few like operations you can do. Oh, I think someone has a question. Hi, Nicola.
I just wanted to say, whenever I run it, it just gives me a syntax error.
Okay, did you mistype something? Because syntax error means it's the type of error which means you usually mistype something, like forgetting a quote or...
Everything has a space in between everything. I've typed everything correct.
Okay. I can have a quick look at your screen and see what you've done. I'll just stop sharing.
Actually, I think I found it.
Oh, yeah? Okay, you found it?
Yeah, I didn't put an equals in my float.
Oh, okay, all right, cool. Glad you found that. Yeah, errors are pretty common when you type Python because you have to be fairly exact. Like with Scratch, as I mentioned before, You just drag and drop blocks. You can't ever mistype something. In Python, it's pretty easy to do. Right, so now we have like a bunch of variables. These are all variables. Whenever you see like the syntax for something equals something, that's a variable. And like, as I mentioned, like last week, you can print any variable using like a print statement and it will be printed to the console. So if I print my string, it'll just print hello there, and you can print any data type as well. So if you print like my int, it'll print that as well. So print works on any kind of data, numbers or booleans or anything. So I'm going to show you a few operations you can do. So operations are like, you know, like things you can do between two different things. Like for 1 + 1, for example, the operation is like addition. So I'm going to slide over here on like the different operations you can do with data types. So I mentioned with strings, you have concatenation, which just means adding two strings together. For the number data types, which are floats and integers, we have addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and all this stuff they're used to being able to do with numbers. With Booleans, you can use not, and you can also use and or. And then with many types of data, you also have the comparison operators where you can compare whether something is greater than, less than, equal to. You may notice like when checking whether something is equal to in a comparison, use the double equal sign. Single equal sign means like make this equal to, whereas like double equal sign means check if this is equal to, like if one thing is equal to the other. An exclamation point and an equal sign means not equal to. So I'll just show you guys how you can do this with variables. So like, yeah, so if you concatenate two different strings together, so in order to see the results of things, you need to sort of print them to the console so you can see. So if you do my string plus another string, it'll sort of just add them together. Like this. So you can add two strings together. You can, you can add like an integer, which is a whole number, and a float together. So 15 plus 1.25 is 16.25. Just run that. And yep, that's 16.25. And if you print out like the word not and then my rule, remember my rule is true. So not true, if something is not true, it is false. So this should print false. And remember with Booleans, it actually, the capitalization matters. So it needs to be like capital T true. If I typed, see how that's kind of blue in color. If I did a lowercase true, it wouldn't turn blue. And then there'd be like a squiggly line here. It says undefined name true. It's a mistype if you spell it with a lowercase t. Does all this stuff make sense so far? Any questions about variables or types? No? Okay. Oh, yeah. Hi, Meredith. I can't really hear you at the moment. Sorry, I can't actually hear you. Is your microphone on? Maybe I'll get back to you some other time. Maybe test out your mic on Zoom in the meantime. Cool. So this is like an example of two operations you can do with different variables. So yeah, variables are basically like stand-ins for whatever like data you assign to them. Oh yeah, and then I'll just do one example of like a comparison operator. So prints my int greater than my float. So this is a comparison operator. Raise your hand if you can tell me what this last thing will print on line 12. Okay. Hi, Toby.
Oh, I thought it was something else because I thought it was just my float. Never mind.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No one can tell me what this will print. So it'll print like the result of what happens when you say like, is my int greater than or more than my float? So like, is 15 bigger than 1.25? Well, yes. So the answer to that is true. So it'll print true. Basically, the result of any comparison operator, like greater than, exactly equal to, less than, is a Boolean, like true or false. You use comparisons like these a lot in like stuff like if statements and loops as sort of conditions. Okay, everyone following so far? Okay. All right, so that is like really common operations that you can do with like string floats and like. So the next thing I was going to go on with is loops. So the first type of loop I was going to show you is like a while loop. So like in Scratch, Scratch has loops as well, right? So Scratch has blocks of code which repeat until like some condition is like not either met or not met anymore. So yeah, so while loops are pretty similar to that. So how you make a while loop is basically you say while, and then you have like, a bit of code like a condition, whatever the condition is. It could be like, is this number greater than this other number or something else? And then you have a colon, so it's the two dots here. And then you have whatever code block you put inside the while loop that you want to repeat. Right, so as long as whatever the condition is up here, like is true, then the code in the code block just repeats forever until it's no longer true. So every run of the loop here is called like an iteration. And then, yeah, so basically, so the condition is checked before the loop runs for the first time and also at the end of every iteration. Note that in Python, everything that is supposed to be inside the while loop has to be like indented. That means it has like a little bit of space before it starts. So I'll show you how that works. Here. So I'll make a variable called num, which is a number. So I'm going to start this number out at 0. So we make number equals to 0. And then let's say while num is less than 5, we'll have this colon here. And then when you press enter, you may notice the editor automatically puts a little bit of space in front of like where your cursor is. So if I just put this, it puts in 2 spaces here automatically. You need this space, and then every subsequent line needs to also have space. So, and it automatically puts even like the same amount of space here when you make new lines. Everything which is indented by these 2 spaces here is part of the while loop. And then when you want to go out of the while loop again, you just like backspace out of there, and then you have no more space again. So when you want to break out, when you want your code to not be part of the while loops code, you just sort of break out of there. Oh, by the way, you may notice I'm writing pass. Pass is like dummy code, which means do nothing. It's just, yeah. But yeah, if you want to indent or unindent like whole blocks of code, like say if you've written like a lot of code and you need to like indent or unindent like the whole thing, you can highlight this with your mouse. And then, so to unindent, you can press like shift, hold shift and then press tab. If you want to indent it again, press tab. That's pretty useful. So yeah, so indenting, like pressing tab here will like make everything go 2 spaces in, shift plus tab makes it go 2 spaces out. And if you notice, if I outdent this, like I remove the spaces here, this has like a red squiggly line. So this red squiggly line means like there is an error, and it says expected an indented block. That's because, you know, whenever you have like a while loop or a for loop or an if statement that has like a colon at the end, the Python interpreter is expecting like a sort of like a block of code that is part of the while loop to be after that, which needs an indent. So it's an error just to like have this be like empty with no indented code after it. So yeah, it will complain, and it will, if you hover over the next line of code, it will tell you expected an indented block. And if I run this, the error says indentation error, expected an indented block, like this. So yeah, this is not having an indented block is an error, and this is a very specific kind of error. It's different from a syntax error, it's indentation error. Does anyone have any questions about how to like indent or like code blocks in loops? Make sense? All right, cool. All right, so all right, so instead of all this pass stuff, I'm gonna actually put some code in. All right, so while num is less than 5, I want to print the number, print num, and let's see what this does. So you click run, and then you see, oops, see, it actually runs forever. You know why? Because num is always 0. Yes, Yahya?
Can I share my screen?
What is it? Are you having a problem, or do you want to demonstrate something?
Yeah.
Having a problem?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, sure. I'll stop sharing. All right, share your screen, Yahya.
Here, like I did like that, and when
Oh, you have like so you see that red squiggly line there. So it says invalid syntax. That's because you said my bool is supposed to be like one word, and you have a space between my underscore and bool. So just like backspace by 1. Yeah, that should be fine now. Oh, the problem is you haven't actually created my bool. See, my string, you have for everything else, you have my string equals, my int equals, my float equals. You forgot to actually create a my bool. Like, see, when you have lines 1, 2, 3, which create my string, my int, and my float, but you don't have like my bool. Make it a different statement. Like before you print it, you need to assign it, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when like just after line 3, just do like my bool equals true. Yeah, my bool equals true with a capital T. I'll share my screen again so you can see how I've typed it. It's bool as in Boolean. Anyway. Yeah, so it's my bool equals true up here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, and you can't have spaces between variable names. Like if you have a variable name like my bear equals, I don't know. So it's not valid because all of your variables need to, they need to like be one word. So what I do instead of putting spaces is I use underscores. So underscores are like, where you type shift dash. So yeah, Python doesn't allow you to have like multi-word variable names. That's why it says like invalid syntax when you do that. Cool. All right, so basically now we have a while loop, and like just like in Scratch or whatever, if you have a condition which is never met, like or which is always met in this case. So if num is always less than 5, this will actually run forever and it won't stop until you actually press stop on the run button. So we are going to need to make this so that like num is not equal to 5, like not equal to 0 forever. So we have this like, so you can like make num equal to something else, right? So let's just say num equals, I don't know, 6. So guess what this will print? So when the first time around this loop, num will be equal to 0, and then it'll print 0, and then num will be equal to 6. And then the next time around the loop, because this gets checked at the end of the loop, it won't be less than 5 anymore, so it should stop. So let's see if it does that. Yeah, it does that. It prints 0 and then stops. But instead of just making it equal to like a number, you can actually make it equal to itself plus 1. So basically, this is kind of confusing because this wouldn't really work in maths. But remember, this means equals here means make this equal to. So it means make the new num equal to what num was before plus 1. So that means, so the first time it goes around the loop, it'll be equal to 0, it'll print 0. Then num equals 0 plus 1, that's 1. So it'll be 1 next time it goes around the loop, and it'll print that. And then 1 plus 1 is 2, and so forth. So yeah, and you can see that this happens until num equals 4. So it will be equal to 4, then num plus 1 is 5 then. And when it's equal to 5, and the next time it gets checked in this loop condition, oh, it's equal to 5, so it's no longer less than 5, and so it stops. So this is like a good way of making a loop do something like a certain number of times. Just like add 1 to like a counter variable like this, like every time it goes around the loop. So this happens exactly 5 times because 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and 4 to 5. Except like it doesn't happen when it's equal to 5. So yeah, a shorter way of writing the same thing is actually num plus equals 1. So Python actually has like this happens so often, Python has like a very shortcut way of like saying, like add something to whatever the variable was, and then make the variable like equal to that. This is just a shorter way of writing that. It means like add 1 to whatever num was and make that the new num, basically. Does anyone have any questions about this while loop, or is anyone having any trouble with this? Has anyone gotten any indentation errors because the indented, you forgot to like indent something properly? Because that's really common. Hi, Eric.
Do we add a space after the equals?
After the equals in
Yeah.
this one? Yes. It's not an error if you don't, but it like makes it look nicer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Technically, you can do stuff like this, and it won't really affect the functionality, but it's a bit uglier.
Oh.
Hi, Toby.
I didn't see what was on line 16.
16? Oops. So on line 16 is like this one, while num is less than 5, colon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And just make sure like everything is like indented properly, because anything that's sort of outdented is outside the while loop. Yeah, so that is a basic while loop. Of course, you don't need to use numbers. You can use pretty much like anything and any condition. You can use strings if you like. Doesn't need to be. You can do the same thing using like, not equal to 5. It would be the same thing basically, because it's only equal to 5 at the last increments. That's actually, yep. So yeah, now you know how to make Python while loops. So so Python has like two different types of loop, well, two main different types of loops. So one is a while loop, the other is called a for loop. All right, yeah, just give me a thumbs up via Zoom if you've like already like caught up to typing what I've already typed. Yeah, a few of you. All right, cool. Sounds like you guys need a little bit of time to catch up then. Okay. So Nicola, you have a problem with it not looping? Hi, Nicola.
Yeah, I typed in everything correctly, but then it just gives me a syntax error, trace back most recent call and stuff.
Okay. So syntax error means you probably mistyped something. Did you forget like a colon, or does it have a red squiggly line telling you where it is? So if I
It says line 10 in module.
line 10.
Yeah, but that looks correct.
Okay, I can have a quick look at your screen just to see. All right, let's try sharing your screen now, Nicola.
I have this.
Yeah, just click share screen if you're on a computer on Zoom.
I'm on a separate device for Zoom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, might be a bit harder to diagnose your problem then. Okay, so you have yours on line 10, like a print statement, right?
Yeah, I have everything.
Okay. Yeah, I can't really see what you did wrong unless I can see either your screen or like a picture of your screen.
I can take a screenshot.
Yeah, that might be useful. Maybe send it in chat. All right. Cool. I think I'll want to answer other questions, but yeah, if you can take a screenshot, that would be good. Okay, Vivian just said she's getting an syntax error for invalid character and identifier. Let me see if I can work out your problem. The problem with like quotes is that there are two different types of quotes, like of double quotes. There's like smart quotes, which look a bit like that. So when I copied your thing directly, so if I do this, I think it will show. Let's see if I get the same error as you. Okay. Yeah. So Vivian, make sure you don't, when you copy and paste like quotes sometimes, like sometimes you get like a special kind of quote. You can notice them because they look different from this one. See, this one's very straight and this one's like slanted. So just like backspace and retype it using your keyboard. Sometimes when you copy and paste it, you can end up with smart quotes or special quotes instead. So just do that. Okay, anyone else having any issues? No, at the moment? Okay. Cool. All right, I'm going to demonstrate the second type of loop. First, I'll explain what while loops are. Go back to my slide here. So Python for loops. So basically a for loop has a structure, so instead of while, it says obviously for, and then you give it like a looping variable. You can name this variable anything you like. And then you say in, and then you have some kind of sequence. So basically so for loops are used to iterate over every item in a sequence. So a sequence is like a sort of ordered data structure that has items in an order. Like a string, you can think of that as like sort of like an ordered sequence of characters. And there are also other Python like data types I haven't told you about, like lists, for example, lists and stuff. So those are all like ordered Python data types. And then how for loop works is that this, whatever your looping variable is, it takes on the value of each item in the sequence in order. So yeah, the first iteration will be the first item, the second time it goes around the loop, it'll be the second item, and the third, etc. And then the loop ends when all the items in the sequence have already been used up. So I will show you how this works in a second. Okay. Hi, Alfie.
Can I share screen?
Yeah, are you having a problem?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop showing my screen. Okay, try now.
So basically this happens.
Okay, just click out of there, like out of, click on the, like somewhere in there. So, yeah. Oh, you forgot to put like quotes around I like milk. So remember, all strings have quotes around them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then add an end quote as well.
Alfie got all of them wrong.
Yeah, like that. That's right.
Alfie put all of them wrong.
Wait.
That's fine. That should run. That's okay. Now you have a bracket on line 10 that's sort of by itself, so you need to delete that.
And Alfie, you still have everything wrong.
Just delete everything on line 10 because it's like
See, look.
too many spaces.
Alfie, over here.
You can use single quotes. That's not wrong. Like
Okay.
single quote strings are still strings.
Okay.
Yeah. And also line 7, 8, and 9, you put like a space after print. That's allowed, but it looks messy. So maybe don't do that. Okay.
Control Z.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, so guys, yeah, make sure that all your strings are quoted because it thinks any like unquoted word is a variable. So make sure it's all quoted. And yeah, like print statements still do work if you put a space there. It's just not really in the style guide. So if you have like print statements that like have spaces and then some with no space, it looks super messy. So try not to do that. Okay. So I just explained how for loops work. So you have the word for, a looping variable, and then a sequence. So I'll show you how that works using strings. So let's say call this variable word. That's not really a word. I'll just call it. Actually, I can use my string up here. This works too. So too many spaces here. I'll just call this letters. So, oh, this is a string called letters. It's just a string with the letters A, B, C, D, E. And then I'll make my for loop. So for, and then you can give the, you can technically give your looping variable any name you like. I'll call mine letter. And then in letters. And you can see, just like with a while loop, it automatically puts this indent in for you, which is 2 spaces wide. And then I'll just make a print statement. So I'll just print out letter, or I'll print out, say, this is the letter, and then comma, and then whatever that is. So because we're treating the string like a sequence of letters. So every iteration around the loop, the looping variable called letter is going to take on the value of each one of these in sequence. So the first time around the loop, it will be A. The second time it will be B. The third time it will be C. The fourth time it will be D. And the fifth time it will be E. And then the loop continues until there are no more letters in the string to loop over. So I'll just run that. And you can see every time it says this is the letter A, then B, then C, then D, then E. All right, does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about for loops? No? But yeah, basically for loops, they, yeah, it allows you to loop over like this, like any kind of sequence. Yeah, there are several sequence sort of types in Python. You can do this with like other kinds of sequences as well. Like, for example, so I've told you that a string is a type of sequence where you can think of every letter or every character as being an item in a sequence. But we also have a special other Python data type called a list. So if I create a list, say, I call this shopping list. So a list is like, to show a list starts with a square left bracket and ends with like a square right bracket. It's not round brackets, these are square brackets. And so, and each item is separated by a comma. And you can have like a list of like numbers like this, or you can have a list of strings. So the shopping list is going to be a list of strings. I'm gonna say eggs, and comma, and when there's milk, comma, bread. The last item in the list doesn't have a comma at the end, just this. So a Python list is kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's just like a list of things, and this list of things has a particular order, like, you know, it's in the order it's written. So this is the first item, the second item, the third item in the list. Okay, hi Yahya.
Can I share my screen?
You having any issues?
Yeah.
Okay. Try now.
Okay. Done.
Okay.
So, did like this. So.
The problem we have is that you said 4 letters in letters. So on line 14 you have 4 letters. It should be 4 letter in letters. So the variable name is letter with no S. So in line 14, like the line above it. Line 14.
Thank you. I've done it.
But yeah, you should name your looping variable differently to like because letters, the string is called letters, and your looping variable should be called something else.
Okay.
And the other problem you have is that notice your for loop is still part of your while loop. So you know how I told you in order to like sort of break out of your while loop, you need to outdent it. So if you keep writing stuff like more code here, it will like become part of your while loop. So what you've done here is you put your for loop inside of your while loop. So if you say for and then blah, 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 like this for loop here, it's still indented by these spaces here, right? So this is actually part of your while loop. So you're kind of putting a loop inside of a loop, which is possible. Like, it's very commonly done, but here the for loop is supposed to be outside of the while loop. And to show that, this is outside the while loop, no spaces in front. And yeah, like you should definitely label your looping variable something a bit different to your to the data structure you're looping over. So I called this string letters, and this is this, and this is the looping variable. I called it letter because each thing in letters is a letter. Although I could also just as easily call it just L. And that would work just fine. But yeah, definitely don't label, your looping variable the same as the string, because that's going to get a bit confusing. It will still work. It's sort of unclear whether you're referring to the string here or this variable here. So try and label them differently. Does anyone else have any questions? Not so far? Okay, cool. I'll show you how for loops work over a list. So the only difference between this is a, like, you can think of the string as sort of being like a list, almost like a list of letters. This is an actual Python list. So it's got square bracket here, square bracket there. Every item is separated by a comma. And remember, this is a list of strings, and strings have quotes around them. So every item has quotes around it like this. All right, so I'm going to loop over every item in the list. So I'll say I'll call my looping variable item in shopping list, colon. If I press enter, it automatically puts spaces here. So 2 spaces like this. And spacing is very important in Python because that's how we determine whether a code block is inside a loop or not. So anything that's has the 2 spaces before it is inside the loop. Everything that doesn't is outside. Anyway, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to print. I need to buy, and then comma, and then item. So what this is going to do, the first time goes around the for loop, item will be equal to eggs. The second time it'll be equal to milk. The third time it'll be equal to bread. So just like, with the string here, where the first time letter was A, then B, then C, then D, then E. This time it's going to be item here is going to be like eggs, and then the second time it'll be milk, then it will be bread. And then the loop will end once we're at the end of the list. So I'll just run this, and yeah, so it says I need to buy eggs, I need to buy milk, I need to buy bread. So so this is the two main types of Python loop. One is the while loop, where it runs until this condition is no longer true. And this is the for loop, which sort of loops over an ordered sequence. Like, it loops over a sequence, any type of Python data structure, which is a sequence. And your looping variable will take the value of every item in order in each loop. Okay. Hi, Yahya.
Can I share my screen?
Are you having any issues?
Yeah.
Okay. Try now.
Okay. So now, why is there a lot of things here?
Or is that one?
Why is there like a lot of things here?
Oh, I think it's keeping like what you printed from last time. if you want to clear your console, so see, don't stop highlighting that. I do see it sort of keeps your whole history every time you click run. If you want it to clear, see that like X sign on your console. Click clear, and that will get rid of everything. Then when you run it again, it should start from the beginning again. See? Yeah. And also, like I said before, your for loop from line 14 onwards is still part of your while loop.
What?
Like from line 14, line 14, 15, 16. You see how I told you that in order to break out of your while loop, you need to sort of get rid of all the spacing in front again. So highlight lines 14 to 16. Like highlight all of them, like 14 to down to 16.
Okay.
Yeah, just
delete that.
Don't delete that. It's fine. Yeah, just press Control Z if you want to like bring it back.
Like that.
Don't. No, that's still wrong. Just Control Z to undo what you did before. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So highlight lines 14 to 16, like all the 3 lines, 14 to 16, all like just.
Okay.
Yeah, all 3. And yep, press like hold Shift and press Tab.
Hold Shift.
Yep.
Tab.
Yep. That didn't work. Press Control Z and bring it back. I think you pressed the wrong button. So you know where Tab is? It's like to the left of the Q. Yeah, like that. Yep. Now unhighlight it. Like click anywhere.
Okay.
Yep, that is right now. See how like you don't have any space before your 4 anymore? That means it's outside of your while loop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because before it was like inside your while loop, so you had like a loop inside of a loop. There you go. Cool. Right, but yeah, it's very important you get your indentation right. It's very easy to because when you press Enter here, your editor will just sort of continue to like add the spaces. So like anything you write in here is gonna like be part of your while loop unless you unindent it. So if you have any problems like that, it's like the easiest thing to do is just literally highlight the blocks you want to fix the spacing of, and then either press Tab or Shift and Tab if you want, depending on whether you want to go out or in. Hope that makes sense. Anyway, that's pretty much most of what I wanted to tell you about, about basically variables and loops. Does anyone have any questions? Not at the moment. Cool. But yeah, basically variables are labels we give to certain data. There are many different types of data in Python. There's strings, there's integers or whole numbers, there's floats, which are decimals, and there's booleans. And then, yeah, you have all these operations you can do, like adding strings together, adding numbers together. Yeah, I'm using like not with booleans. And the comparison operators like greater than, less than, equal to, and stuff like that. Yeah, cool. Yeah. We only have like a couple of minutes left of today's lesson. So yeah, just ask me any questions if you need any help still. And remember, the lecture recording should be available to you guys to watch if you need to like follow along later or review anything. I think I said, can I go down? I think this is everything. Yeah, Python, I guess, is like a little bit more complicated. Well, it's a bit more complicated than Scratch. You can actually make mistakes when you type things. You need to type things fairly exactly. You have like your output is mainly like text-based. You can actually draw pictures and stuff with Python as well, but it's a bit more complicated than just printing text. Yeah, it's a very powerful language and you can do a lot with it.
I think time is up, everyone. Thank you so much. Yeah, once again, if you could not follow, just ask your parent to send us an email, or they should already know where the lesson is on YouTube. Yeah, so you can always watch back. So don't worry about that. That's it. I'm going to unmute everyone. Say goodbye to Miss Vanessa. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.